Hi, I'm Chris Ralph, and I've been doing a series of videos on secrets of successful nugget detecting, gold detecting. And I'm here today at an old mine site where I've gotten some gold off the dumps before, and I've already gotten 9 pieces this morning. They're all kind of small, but still it's nice gold nonetheless. And one of the pieces I got is actually a nice little piece of wire gold. So old mine dumps are an often overlooked site to detect, and that's why I've come out here to talk about today's secret, because today's secret of successful nugget detecting is using your discrimination properly. A lot of guys don't understand discrimination. In fact, you'll hear a lot of experienced prospectors say things like, just dig it all, don't worry about discrimination, dig everything. And you know what? If there's only a moderate amount of gold, only a moderate amount of trash, or even a low amount of trash, then yes, you should dig it all. I totally agree. But mine dumps are dumps, okay? And the miners treated them like a dump. They would throw old cans and junk, nails, anything they didn't want, they would throw it in the dump. I've actually I dug a pocket watch that was broken out of a mine dump one time. And one time I dug the handle of an old shaving piece, you know, where they had the leather and they'd do the blade on the leather. Well, this one had a silver handle, the leather broke, and they threw the whole thing in the dump, and it was a sterling silver handle. So old dumps have a lot of junk in them. In fact, where I'm standing, there's a bunch of old pieces of what used to be a bed, okay? So the rusty little bits that are left over. So you gotta expect trash, big time, in a dump, okay? By very nature of the word, it's a dump. So, you know, if you're gonna go with the dig it all philosophy, you're gonna be real unhappy, because you're just gonna be digging trash after trash after trash after trash after trash. And you know, man, once in a while you get a little bit of gold, but you know, you're gonna be digging one whole lot of trash. So what I'm telling you is, if you have a good VLF, and honestly to detect mine dumps, you need a detector that will detect little bits of gold. And a good VLF, a good sensitive VLF like this is the Gold Monster 1000 by Mine Lab. I've talked about the Gold Monster before. I like it. It's a good detector. But it has a really good discrimination system. And I'm going to talk to you about how to use that. So one of the first lessons about using the discrimination system is you have to understand that your detector tells you 3 different possibilities. A lot of people say 2, right? It's either ferrous or non-ferrous. But they ignore another, and actually very important possibility, and that's that the detector is telling you, I don't know. And that's very, you know, actually it happens more often than not. And I'll tell you, of the little nuggets that I've dug here, especially this morning, almost all of them showed up initially on the detector as I don't know. And what I don't know, how it tells you, obviously on a detector like this, if the indication bar goes to one side, it's non-ferrous. If it goes to the other side consistently, it's I'm sorry, this side is to be basically to my left is the ferrous, and to the right is the non-ferrous, okay? So if it gives you a good solid indication, you know, every time you go over the target, boom, 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 then you know it's either ferrous or non-ferrous. But way more common, especially with small targets, is where it goes bob one way, and then this way a couple times, and then that way. And it's basically bouncing back and forth. And you may even get no signal at all, where the indication bar just stays in the middle, and you hear a beep, but it's not saying ferrous or non-ferrous. I gotta apologize. Apparently the video cut off suddenly while I was filming out there in the desert at the mine, and I don't know why it turned off. I filmed afterwards. It wasn't that the battery was dead or anything. When I filmed after that with the same battery, it ran fine. So Anyway, let's get back to it. We were talking about the proper use of discrimination in metal detector prospecting. And you know, the discrimination in your metal detector is a special electronic filtering circuit that basically looks at the information coming back from the coil and takes information basically regarding the shape and the conductivity and the magnetic features of the object being detected. And you know, it's not perfect, but it can be a very useful tool, and that is what I was talking about when I was out there at the mine site. And I did get some good gold. I had actually found some good gold before I even started the video that I did, but I found some more, and in the not too distant future I'll do a video on basically extracting the gold out of that material. So today I'm using the Gold Monster 1000, and I was doing the video on that. And one of the reasons I choose the Gold Monster 1000 for going out there on the video and for going out there to the mine dumps and sorting through really difficult material with a lot of trash is that the mine lab, even in the non-detecting setting, will give you a reading one way or the other. A lot of detectors, basically the design idea is to beep if it's a good target and not beep if it's a bad target, which unfortunately that leaves out a lot of stuff, and reality is a lot more complex than that. That the detector, as I was mentioning before, the three choices, sometimes it knows it's ferrous, I mean basically, which is iron, usually rusty iron trash. It can tell you if it's sure that it's non-ferrous, which means brass or gold or something like that, that's not iron. But a lot of times it gives you, I don't know. And the ones where you have beep on a good target and don't beep on a bad target, a lot of times you get a kind of chirpy beep or a kind of a half a beep or a sort of a beep. And that is the detector saying, I don't know. The detector isn't sure. It's not giving you beep, beep, beep. It's a good target. It's not giving you, if it's a bad target, it's giving you chirp, beep, beep, you know, and it's not telling you anything. So, you know, you got to be aware of basically the I don't know settings, the I don't know results. And this detector, when you have it in non-discrimination mode, you still get a reading, and you get a beep on everything, but the discrimination bar will point one way or the other, whether it's ferrous junk or whether it's a good target, potentially gold. So I was talking about that, and you've got to be able to dig the I don't know targets. That's kind of what the bottom line is, that you know, the detector, in order to be sure what it is, it needs a pretty good strong target, pretty good strong target response. So weak target responses or imperfect target responses, you'll get unreliable or I'm not sure type of data back. So one of the important things about using this detector is that you have to, and this is true of any detector in discrimination, you have to pinpoint where the target is, you have to know exactly where it is, and then put your coil right over the target. You see, if you're swinging by the target or near the target or kind of, or even worse, over halfway over the target and then back instead of fully over, you're going to get erroneous, weird readings. You're going to get readings that aren't correct. And so you've got to be, one of the important things about using your discrimination is to be able to pinpoint the target, find where in the ground the target is, then swing back and forth directly over the target and give it a good bit of swing on the far side. So over and back a little bit and over and back a little bit. And then those readings, if they're strong enough, it will let you know whether it's a good target or a bad target. Now, a lot of times I mentioned, if the target is weak, it's going to give you this I don't know kind of response where it bounces back and forth, or if you have one of the ones that are silent on discrimination, it will chirp. I think in a lot of those cases, it's better to run in the non-discrimination mode. But with weak targets, the detector doesn't know, or it can even actually give you a wrong answer. I can tell you that a couple years ago, I was in an old hydraulic pit in California, and I was in an area where I had dug some decent nuggets, and I went over a spot that was really what I thought would be a good spot. And I got a target response, but it was a little on the weak side. It's kind of weak. And I decided to just check it with the discrimination. So I went over it and I got nothing. It was one of the detectors that gives you no response, no beep if it's not a good target. So I put it back on non-discrimination, and it just happened to be in a good looking spot. I mean, it was a crevice going down in the bedrock. So I dug it out, and as I got closer, it was maybe down a good 6+ inches. I got down 3 or 4 inches. I tried the discrimination just as a test on it again. This time it read strongly that it was non-ferrous. It had a much stronger signal, and so the detector was able to say non-ferrous, non-ferrous, non-ferrous. It knew exactly what it was because getting closer to the target, it had got a good strong reading and was able to say. So the same is true basically with all the detectors, and the same is true with this one. If you were far enough away, you're not going to get a good reading, but when you get close to it, you'll get a good reading. And that target that I was digging down on that was in the crevice, yeah, it happened to be 2 nuggets that added up to a little over 1/10 of an ounce of gold. So it was 2 decent sized nuggets. So remember, weak targets are not reliable. A lot of times if you get a weak target, you're going to get a bouncing around kind of I don't know response, and so you need to scrape off a little material, dig down on that target, and be sure that you've pinpointed right over it, that you're swinging directly over the target, not off to the side or near it or halfway over it and then stop. You got to swing completely over it, completely let the thing get a sample of the ground, the target and the ground. And then you can get a reliable output from the detector. So another important thing that in trashy areas that you'll encounter that you need to know about is multiple targets in the ground. And I had the mine that I was at when I started filming this video. Yeah, there were a number of places where there were multiple targets. So when you're pinpointing the target, when you've found a target you're interested in and you're pinpointing, be sure and test around it. Make sure there are not other targets that are giving you an influence, because if you get one target here and one target here and you swing over it, you're going to get influence of the second target on your swing. And sometimes if you go over both of them and there's enough separation, you'll get 2 responses. But a lot of times if you swing over this one and near another one, you may get a reading that tells you, non-ferrous when it really is iron junk. Or even otherwise, you can get it telling you iron junk when it's really non-ferrous, potentially gold. So be sure and test around and make sure that you don't have multiple targets. And if you do have multiple targets, then you need to kind of pull them away. Or dig one that's maybe off on the edge and separate it out, and then test the one that you have if you have 2. Or if you have 3 or 4, be sure and go on the edge and kind of dig those out and separate them out so that you just get one target at a time that your detector is seeing. It really does make a difference. Now, one of the things too with that multiple target effect is to have a small coil. When I'm hunting mine dumps and getting in really trashy areas, it's way better to have a little coil, because if you have a big coil, your likelihood of seeing multiple targets is greatly increased, because you're seeing more ground, you're seeing more area, and so therefore you're potentially seeing more different targets. So when you get out to places that are trashy, don't be afraid to use your discrimination. Yeah, I agree with the guys that say dig it all if you're in a situation where you have minimal or only a moderate amount of trash. The truth is, if you know how to use the discrimination and you practice it and have the right technique, then you can do it and rely and have confidence that when it tells you it's trash, it's gonna be trash. When it tells you it's not iron junk, it's gonna be something that's not iron junk. Now it may be a bullet or some other thing, but, or in mine dumps, one of the things that is the most common is basically what I call a blasting cap shrapnel. When you put the blasting cap in the dynamite, the old ones were from the turn of the century or older. They were made of brass. More newer in the 30s and 40s and newer, they went to aluminum. But either way, both aluminum and brass are kind of moderately conductive targets that sound kind of like gold. And so your discrimination is not going to help you against those. But it can help you a lot against that iron trash. And having a good small coil and knowing the right techniques will really help you. And like I say, you can have confidence if you've practiced and you know what you're doing. You can have confidence that your discrimination is working properly and is giving you reliable results. Okay, so like I say, I'm going to do a video on crushing that gold up here not too in the reasonable future, and I've got a summary of the points of using your discrimination properly and things that you should remember. So hang on, let me give you this summary.
Okay, so here's my summary. The 6 rules to remember for using your metal detector discrimination system properly. The first is to dig it all unless you have heavy trash levels. Now, what are heavy trash levels? Well, you get to decide for yourself. It may even be that at the beginning of the day when you're fresh, you're willing to dig anything. But after a while, you get tired and you don't want to dig any more than you have to. So, you get to decide what constitutes heavy trash levels, but if there really isn't much trash, it makes sense to go ahead and dig everything. Now, the next rule is that your detector gives you 3 different indications, and that is ferrous, which means iron and rusty iron trash, non-ferrous, which means any metal other than iron, brass or gold or lead, whatever, that's non-ferrous, and then I don't know. And a lot of times the detectors do say I don't know, and you need to dig those I don't know signals because they can be gold. And in fact, most of the gold I found the other day out at that mine started out as an I don't know signal. Now the next one is that your discrimination is only reliable on stronger signals. The I don't know signals will normally resolve one way or the other as you dig down and get closer to them. So you may start out with the discrimination bouncing around and unsure, but as you dig down a little bit and get closer to it and pinpoint it more accurately and swing right over it, it probably will resolve one way or the other. As I mentioned, the gold that I found started out as I don't know, but all the pieces that were gold eventually resolved down to be non-ferrous once I got closer to the target and got the coil real close and got a strong signal that the metal detector could see and analyze and then let me know which it was. Now, you got to be careful. This is rule number 4. You got to be careful to pinpoint and swing your coil fully over the center of the target. Swinging your coil near to, but not directly over the target, will give you false and unreliable discrimination readings. And so the skill of pinpointing is part of the accurate use of your discrimination system, because if you swing close to but not really over, or if you swing partly over but then back off, you're going to get weird readings. You can make a non-ferrous target, have your detector think that it's ferrous. You can take a ferrous target and have your detector think that it's non-ferrous by not really swinging right over the center of the target. Rule 5 is that multiple targets in the ground can give you false and erratic readings on your discrimination system, because usually if you're swinging over one target, you're swinging near another target when you have multiple targets in the ground. And remember, I told you near is bad. You got to go right over the target. And so carefully check around when you find a target. If you get odd readings, and make sure that there aren't other targets in the ground, that your coil is seeing more than one target and therefore giving you weird and strange and erratic readings. If you do find multiple targets, carefully separate them out one at a time. You can normally find an edge of the area where there's a lot of trash and dig one out, and find another edge and dig that one out. And eventually you separate, you may have 4 or 5 targets in a small area, and you separate them out, and then you get a more reliable reading on each one individually. The final rule is that small coils are much better for picking good targets out from among heavy trash. Small coils don't see as many, when you get multiple targets in the ground. Dumps and a lot of other places where the miners basically slept or camped right on the placer area, they just basically threw their trash wherever it landed. So it's not unusual to see heavy trash areas, and small coils are just much better for picking out the good targets from among the heavy trash. So those are my efficient rules for using your detector discrimination and how to get the best results out of it. And the truth is, if you know what you're doing and you have good technique and you follow these rules, you can have reliable results on your discrimination system. And if it tells you it's rusty iron junk, you can be pretty sure it's rusty iron junk and you don't need to dig it. So hope this helps, and I'll be back with more secrets of successful metal detecting in the future. But in the meantime, if you want to learn more about prospecting and how to become a successful prospector and find your own gold as successfully as I do, well, I wrote a book about it, and I've got some more information on that coming up right now. So also I want to mention my book, Fistful of Gold. If you have more interest in learning about how to find gold and be successful as a prospector, this is the source that you want to check out. Basically, my book is an encyclopedia of everything you need to know about prospecting, from panning, sluicing, metal detecting, dry washing, to geology of gold, and even how to stake a claim. It's basically everything you need to know about prospecting, and it's available now on Amazon. You just go to Amazon and look for Fistful of Gold by Chris Ralph, and I guarantee you'll find it. Also, I have my own website, and that's, of course, free. And for more free information, just go to nevadaoutbackgems.com/prospect/chrisprospect.htm. That's the URL for it, and it's got all kinds of information about prospecting and mining and the whole thing, everything you wanted to know, including some great history and locations of where you might want to prospect for gold. And finally, if you like this presentation and you want to learn more about finding your own gold, I promise that I've got quite a few more gold, silver, and gemstone videos coming that are on the way. A lot of exciting and interesting stuff, both in the form of live action videos as well as slide presentations. So be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell, and YouTube will let you know when I publish new stuff. And hit the like button as well, and feel free to comment or ask questions, and I promise to do my very best to answer any of your questions as best I can. So thanks a lot, and hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you again soon.